I have a kid-free moment, so I figured this would be a good time to put my first video up on this new channel I'm doing. And it's going to be a what sold, specifically a 100% sell-through rate. And if you're not sure of what that looks like, it is things that have sold within the first 90 days of being listed. So I'm going to give you guys just a run through of some things that sold within that time frame. Now, the number breakdowns that I'm going to give you will be the amount they paid for the item. I won't include tax or shipping. And then I will show you how much I paid and the profit made on that item. Now remember, the math might not add up based on what's on the screen, okay? That's because there is more going on than those factors I'm showing you, including things like the 10% off of my shipping rates, things like that. So keep in mind that is not what's going on within this equation to give you accurate math. So let's go ahead and get started. And while I'm getting this set up, I just want to say, for those of you who don't know, I am a part-time reseller, full-time stay-at-home mom, part-time several things. And this is the year I'm trying to scale it. So there's some background about me. Let's get started. Okay, so this first item technically sold in December, but that's because it's included on my January spreadsheet because it was part of what I got paid for in January. It's the only one that I'm going to talk about from December. But regardless, here we go. It was an Alfred Dunner knit sweater. It was an extra large. It was embroidered with this beautiful kind of granny core-ish floral design. And now this one I could have held on to for more money, but this person just kept coming back and wanting this item, and they just wanted it for the price they wanted it for. So I was being nice. And also I think it was a slow sales day that day. So I was like, sometimes I just let things go just to make something or to get my store. I feel like sometimes it gives it a push to get more sales. At least in my experience, that's what happens. So I gave it to her for $15 plus shipping. So I paid $4.99 for this sweater, and the fees were $3.51. So when it was all said and done, the profit on this item was $8.90. So not ideal, not a strong one to start with. But she really wanted this item, so I was just letting her have it. Okay, next is this J. Jill tunic shirt. It was really cute, actually. It said Sand and Sea in cursive on it. It was beautiful. A very boho-y, vacation-y type of shirt. I forgot to say that the granny sweater sold on eBay, and the Sand and Sea sweater sold on, that's a tongue twister, on Poshmark. Okay, yeah, so it was a really nice boho-y, vacation-y type shirt. I could definitely see someone getting this to go on a trip of some sort. And it was made of linen and cotton, and it sold for $39, which was my full asking price. And the fees on Poshmark were $7.80. They didn't get any discounted shipping or anything. So at the end of it, I made $25.95 on this item. I did pay $5.25 for this. I forgot to say that. So $5.25 for this item, turned around for $25.95, so pretty good there. That sold in 49 days. I'm doing this horribly. I'm doing really bad at telling you guys this because I'm sorry, I haven't done videos in a while, but the first sweater sold in 32 days. And the second sweater here sold in 49 days. Next, we're moving on to THML Anthropology. It was a really cute peplum peasant type blouse, very boho-y, with flowers, everything like that. And this sold on eBay after 5 days of listing, which is awesome. I didn't realize it would move that fast. So I'm really glad it did. I know Anthropology is kind of here nor there as far as when it will sell, depending on what it is. So I sold it for $25, which was only $5 off of what I listed it for. I paid $2 for this shirt, and the fees were $4.40, which left me with a profit of $20.05. So decent turnaround there. Next, we're going to talk about Athleta, and there are certain Athleta items that sell for me. This is one of them that moves pretty fast. I've gotten this multiple times. And I feel like Athleta moves for me anywhere from $25 to $40. So this is the Athleta Salutation Stash Pocket 2 7/8 length tights. All of that is in the title. If you look on the item, you will actually see that as the title on the item. Yeah, I found 2 purple ones. They both sold pretty fast. This was a size extra large, and after sitting for only 1 day, they sold for $31.50 on eBay. I paid $5 for this item, and the fees paid were $4.98. Shipping was $4.88, which left me with a profit of $23.04. Next is this Eileen Fisher item. It was merino wool. It was like a high-low top. It had like a front seam as an accent to it. Beautiful like deep green color. It was Italian yarn, merino wool, and this actually sold once. And then I gotta make sure that this isn't the first time or the second time. I'm trying to remember because it sold twice. Yeah, this was the second time. So the first time was back in December, and the person returned it within 1 day of receiving it, saying that they just didn't like the way it looked on them. As annoying as that was, this was a high interest item. I had another person begging me to go down on price, which I shouldn't have done. I was willing to do it for her. The minute that I went down on the price, somebody bought it. Like immediately, the lady didn't even get it. So there was a lot of desire for this item. And then when it came back, I relisted it after making sure everything was all good. And it sat for technically 52 days between the original buyer and then the second buyer. So I'm not sure how many days it was listed the second time around, but I mean, even if you split that in half, that's not even a full month per item per person looking for this item. So there's that. It sold for $58 and I had paid $4.99 for it. The shipping was $4.88 and the fees associated with this was $8.97, which brought my profit to $45.56 for the sweater. It's getting gradually darker as the day goes. There's nothing I can do about it right now. We'll edit some light into this, I don't know. So yeah, that was the item. At least it was worthwhile with the profits. Next was this vintage, was it vintage? I feel like it was. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head, but I think it was a vintage piece. Apparently I didn't mark it on the title, so maybe it's not, but I felt like it was. It was Mary Angela Barini. It's a midi sweater dress, size large, and it was pink. It was made of wool and Angora. And I put the word Barbiecore because this was when, you know, the height of Barbie stuff was really big. And it sold in 33 days on eBay. And it sold for $37. And I had paid $4.99 for it. The shipping cost was $6.22. And the transaction fees were $5.88, which brought my profit to $28.06. Decent one there. I didn't think this would sell that quick, to be honest. That's why I went pretty heavy with not heavy, but I went very specific about which words I chose since you only have so much space to title something, but surprisingly, it sold pretty fast. So there's that. It's probably because it was a wool Angora blend. Next, we have a Talbot's tunic shirt, and this was a gorgeous little piece. Perfect. I got it because I knew Valentine's Day is coming. So I had that in mind. So I listed it and it sold within 58 days of listing for $23.75. So this is not an item where you're going to make a huge amount of money, obviously. So this isn't an item that sold for crazy or fast, but I knew it would sell before Valentine's Day. And they paid, like I said, $23.75 for it, and I paid $5.99 for this, which is unusual. I usually wouldn't pay that for a top like this, but I must have been pretty confident at that moment when I bought it that I would pay a little extra for it, knowing it wouldn't sell for too much. Also, the shipping was $4.88. The transaction fees were $4.33, so I made a profit of $14.95. All right, so next is this Patagonia Nano Puff thin quilted puffer jacket. It was a size small, which I wasn't sure if that would work against me or not. It didn't. It did not work against me because this actually sold in 8 hours from listing time for $80. We know that Patagonia is a highly desired item. And I said it was on eBay, but it actually was on Poshmark. I don't know how I put that in wrong, but it was sold on Poshmark. And I listed it for I think 100, but there was a flaw. There was like a small hole in the sleeve or something. So I put that in there expecting people to make an offer. And within 8 hours, I got an offer for $80. And considering I had paid $7.99 for it, I'm gonna take it. So yeah, we turned $7.99 into $80. And they did not get any discounts on shipping. It was a $16 transaction fee. We know Poshmark's a little heavy on the fees, but I made a profit of $56.01 when it was done with. So I'm not going to be upset about that. Next is a Patagonia Better sweater. I got really lucky. They had just brought a new rack out right as I was standing there, and they hadn't even put the tags on it yet, but they told me it was fine if I went ahead and looked through everything. And this was a rack full of like Patagonia, cool outdoorsy brands. So I was able to walk away with a good amount that didn't have damage. Some of it was damage. Obviously whoever donated this stuff was a very outdoorsy person, and a lot of it had flaws, but the pieces I felt like were salvageable I did get. So there was a Patagonia Better sweater in there, which is it's a decent, I feel like that's a Patagonia item that can do good. And it sold on eBay after 2 days of being listed for $50. I paid $7.99 for it, and the shipping was $7.20. The transaction fees were $7.74, which left me with a profit of $37.32. So that was a pretty good sale. Next, we're going to talk about a vintage item. This is from the brand Lemongrass, which I feel like I kind of come across a good amount, and I feel like they have really good themed pieces. And it's this denim shirt that had like very tea tree vibes with the embroidery on it, with the letters and everything. So I did include teacher, school embroidered in the keywords, and it sold on Poshmark after 18 days of listing for $15. I let it go for $15 because this is one of those items where I didn't see the flaws in the store when I was buying it. And when I got home under my more fluorescent studio type lighting, I found flaws. And it was like mustard stains or something. So it was a pretty obvious set of stains. I had a note on there so people would be aware of that. And I was willing to take offers. And for me, if items are flawed, when I spend $5 on an item, I hope to at least get 15 back on flawed items. So this worked for me, and I didn't even pay $5 for this. This was actually $1.50. And also the shipping was $2.02. Well, okay, so it sold on Poshmark. It's not that the shipping was $2.02. That's what I was charged because I gave them discounted shipping. Does that make sense? Because as you know, on Poshmark, you don't see the shipping cost. The only thing you see is if it affects you because you gave them a discounted shipping cost, which I did. My profit on this was $8.48. So an 18-day turnaround for a flawed item and still making a profit, I'll take it. Okay, next we have a Catherine's sleepwear nightgown. It was a 4X. So, you know, it was a really good size for Catherine's, and it had these really cool little tiny dots on it that you can't really see that well in photos, but it is there. It's a really nice solid pattern, but it has this embroidered texture in it of polka dots in a sense. And this made it right to the cusp of a 90-day turnaround. It sold on day 90. And the comps were actually decent when I listed this, at least based on my phone. And I thought it would sell for more, but I did a huge sale where I was like just trying to push things that I didn't think were gonna move, and that was one of them. And that huge sale brought me a $16 sale for it, which it's okay. I just wanted it gone, so that works for me. I paid $4.99 for this, and the shipping was, once again, it was through Poshmark, so I had to pay an additional $2.02 out of profits since they got a discounted shipping offer, and the transaction fees were $3.20. This left me with a very small profit of $5.79. But hey, I got back what I paid for it plus another $5.79. So that's almost doubling what I doubled what I spent on it. So, you know, you win some, you lose some, but I'll consider that a win on a small scale. Okay, next is it's a brand that I'm wanting to experiment with because I feel like, I don't know if I like where the comps are. I don't know if they're the easiest to read, but it's this brand called One World, and it's a brand you probably see in every thrift store. That's why I'm curious about trying to play with it. Now, I feel like this was a very nice piece, like the design on it, so that's why I went ahead and picked it up. And I was right, because it did sell in 62 days on eBay. But the comps are kind of whatever. So I think I might experiment some more with this brand in the future, only in plus sizes. I don't think the smaller sizes I would do that. It did sell for $24.24. I paid $3.99 for this top, and the shipping was $5 even, and the fees were $4.25. This brought my profits to $17.30. So for an item that I'm not sure about, it worked out. Next, we do have another Patagonia item. Okay, we're back. I'm using a camera that only has so much life in it before it gets overheated. So we're back. So this was a really cool item, and depending on the patterns you get, you could do better. This one seemed to be like a middle of the road one. So it was the Patagonia Men's Classic Retro X fleece vest. Okay, I like it, and I feel like if it was my husband's size, I would have kept it for him, but it was not, and therefore I listed it on eBay, and it sold in 9 days. And it did have some flaws, like it's fleece material, so there was some dirt in it. Regardless, it sold for $50. My cost of goods was $7.99. The shipping was $9.88. The transaction fees were $8.12, which brought my profit to $32.56. But yes, if you look at this piece, it's a really cool one. It's pretty obvious. I feel like when you see a Retro X, you know it's a Retro X based on the color blocking with like the little pocket area. By the way, if you hear my stomach ground, I'm sorry. It's 12:38 and I haven't eaten lunch. But yes, if you look, it has a very specific design, at least to me. I could be wrong. Maybe there's other vests that look like it, but I feel like when I see this, I know it's a Retro X. Though this is my first time coming across one. They're my favorite, I think, Patagonia vests. They look really cool to me. And some of the patterns can get really interesting. But like I said, this is a middle of the road one. But hey, I'll take a $32.56 profit any day. Next, we have a Talbot's Houndtooth Wool Blend Blazer. Okay. As soon as I saw this, I knew it was going to sell. I knew it. They did want it for a higher amount than I usually like to pay, but I think it was a day where that price was marked down a little bit. So yeah, we'll talk about what I paid for it in a minute. But it sold on eBay in 6 days. So why is it getting so dark? Okay, I turned on some light in my house, but I don't think it helped. Okay, shh, that's my dog. Okay, so yeah, it sold in 6 days on eBay after listing. It was a beautiful, beautiful red, and was it ivory or was it tan? I'm trying to remember based off this tiny photo. I feel like it was like an ivory color. It was like a beautiful red and ivory houndstooth. We know houndstooth is very much a loved pattern, and it sold for $38. I took an offer on that and I probably could have got more for it, but 6 days to get $38 and just get it out. Like, I'm getting to the point where I just want things to go. Okay, so I went in and took the $38 offer for it. I think it was an offer, and I had paid $13.99 for it. That's why I was saying it definitely was more than I liked. I do not like to pay that, and normally I wouldn't. Also, this didn't really fit my rules of what I expect and how far I want my money to stretch in profits, but that's okay. I feel like it was too nice to pass up. I knew it would sell. I just didn't know what amount I would get for it. It was marked down. I think they wanted double that. It was at a VOA. So yeah, sometimes they've lost their mind thinking anybody wants to pay certain prices, whether you're a reseller or not. And this was one of those items, at least at a thrift store. But hey, I mean, I sold it for $38 online, so I don't know if that says much about that theory. But the shipping was $7.85, and the fees were $6.85. So my profit was just $20.31. If I would have let it sit, I could have gotten a better offer and made more money. But honestly, I'm not mad at $38. I'll just take it. Okay, next is a brand that I love coming across. There's only one thrift store where I ever find it. I come across it every so often at this one thrift store, and I get so excited every time because I know that it's well loved. In fact, I have one in my closet that I'm keeping for myself, but I haven't even worn it because I feel the guilt of saying like, but I could make money, so much more money if I just sell it. So I don't know. We'll see if I wear it this summer or if I go ahead and sell it. But regardless, after my little tangent there, Flax. Flax is a wonderful brand to sell. Is it the fastest moving? No, it's not. But this, I think, was moving pretty fast based on the size. It was a 1G, which equals an 18-20 in women's clothing. So Flax makes really quality linen pieces. And this was a beautiful, beautiful burgundy dress. And it had these long sleeves. So I knew that with it being maxi and long sleeves, somebody would want it anywhere between winter through summer. I mean, I'd get it anyways, regardless of the season. But that's why I definitely picked it up. It sold on eBay after 84 days, which isn't bad. I thought it would sell a lot faster. And it did go for $102.66 or 60 cents. I was holding off for closer to probably like 120, even though comps, I could have went even higher. I was shooting for 120, but I accidentally included it in a sale, I think. I think that's what happened. I didn't mean to, and it went down to 102.60. I think that's what happened. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not gonna be mad, you know, 102.60 when I paid $4.99 for it because luckily it's not a brand thrift stores know about. I'll take it. So yeah, $4.99 turned into $102.60, and the shipping was $7.85, and the transaction fees were $15.68. It always hurts when you see those higher transaction fees, but my profit was $86.53. So $4.99 after everything else, you know, it was $4.99 turned into $86.53 for me. That's a good sell. Okay, next was this J. Jill cardigan. It was a beautiful button-up knit cardigan. Nothing too specific made it special, but you know, J. Jill is one of those brands. I will say that I feel like J. Jill is selling less and less for me. I will say that. Regardless, I'm still enticed to pick it up every time I see it. I have actually started passing it up in stores, which is crazy because I never thought I would do that, but I think it's becoming a bit saturated to the point where it is, you got to get more and more choosy with it. So there was nothing too special. The best thing going for it was probably the size, but regardless, it was on eBay for 45 days when it sold for $26.04. I had only paid $3.50 for it. The shipping was $5.45 and the transaction fees were $4.60. So I made a profit of $19.39. All right, we're coming to just the last few here. We have a vintage Pravada silk blouse. This was a really interesting piece, and somebody else said it recently. I don't know who it was. Maybe it was Kaylee Elaine. I'm not sure. But they had just said how hard it is to find vintage silk in good condition. And this was one of those items. So it was a vintage silk Pravada blouse that had these jungly scenic views on it. And it had wildlife animals. I think there was like a lion, tiger, maybe a leopard of some sort, or cheetah on it. And it sold on Poshmark in 5 days. So I'm not surprised. I feel like that is a more Poshmarky item. It sold for $28. It did have some stains on it, very small stains that you could hide by tucking it into pants or whatever. So I'm happy to take the $28 on a flawed item. But other than that, it was in a great condition. And the cost of goods was $4.99. The shipping, I did have to pay an extra $2.02 because I gave them a discount. And the transaction fees were $5.60, which brought my profit to $15.39. Next, we have another vintage piece. It was this beautiful floral linen dress from a brand called Erica. I'm not very familiar with the brand. Was this an Italian made piece? I can't remember off the top of my head. I have quite a few, I at least find quite a few pieces that are made in Italy. Let's see here, was this made in Italy? No, it was not made in Italy. This was made in Sri Lanka. So it was not one of my Italian made pieces, but I thought it was beautiful enough to sell. I was worried about the size and the length, the short sleeves. Like, these are all things that factor into how much money you make on something like this, but it sold. And it sold for $24 in 38 days. So it was on eBay. That's where the sale was. I had paid $4.99 for it, and the shipping was $5.15. The fees were $4.36. So I made $16.25 on a old vintage but beautiful short sleeve, short in length linen dress. So I thought that was pretty, I thought that was pretty good. I'm not the best at vintage. I'm trying to jump into the vintage world. It's definitely, it doesn't, I feel like it doesn't follow the same guidelines as modern pieces. So yeah, it's a whole world that I'm afraid to jump into sometimes, but sometimes I get lucky. Next, we have a Southern Tide I think I typed it wrong. I said Huskly vest. Oh gosh, that was probably on eBay the way I wrote it. That's embarrassing. Let me see where to go. No, it was a Poshmark sale. Huskly. I typed that wrong. It was supposed to be a husky vest. But Southern Tide, I know that some people don't pick it up anymore, but some of the pieces actually do really good. And this was an example of that. So this was a, oh, actually, no, I sold it for lower than I should have because I got it mixed up with another vest. And so the other vest, it was, what brand is that other vest? I think it's Marine Layer. But there was a reason why I got it mixed up. It's not new with tags, right? The other one is, but this one was, this is a new with tags Southern Tide husky vest. And I mistaked it. So I took an offer for $30 and I didn't realize till after. So it is what it is. I could have made more on this, but I'll take $30. It's fine. So I sold it on Poshmark. It cost me $7.99 to purchase. They paid full shipping, so I didn't have to pay anything out of pocket. And the transaction fees were $6. So I made $16.01 on my mistake. Okay, this next one is a brand that I don't know if I've heard anybody talk about it. And I don't even think it's a big brand. And I guess some people wouldn't consider it a bolo. I don't know if it's necessarily a bolo, but it's always one to consider, I would say. And that is a Romper Jack. Romper Jack makes these really nice, kind of vacation-y or LA trendy vibe rompers and jumpsuits for men. And every time I've found one, they made pretty quality. I like the way they feel, and they have some details about them that really have fit in mind. And I found two at the same store one day, and there was one that was a full romper and one with shorts, both baseball themed. I still have the full pant one, the jumpsuit, but this was the romper, the shorts. It sold after 3 days of listing for $25, and I had it listed for $30. So that was a pretty good turnaround. So if you see Romper Jack, look it up, because certain colors and styles and themes, it's one of those brands where you have to have a hunch about it. You're not going to find the best comps because there's not much to read on it, honestly. So you do have to be mindful of that and make choices accordingly. So far, I've picked up every Romper Jack I've found. This one sold for $25. I paid 99 cents for it. It was a special sale day where it was like, I think it was a holiday. I bought it on MLK Day or on the MLK weekend. And then I didn't list it right away, but when I listed it, it sold in 3 days. So that's probably what happened. The shipping paid was $6.33. The transaction fees were $4.79, which brought me to a profit of $21.89. All right, next is a Lily Pulitzer piece. This one I was surprised I sold as fast as I did, because to be honest with you, this is an item where the comps weren't the best. And I even priced up, and I was like, I'm just gonna have to sit on it and hope somebody finds the same value in it as I do. My sister actually found it first. I taught her to resell. She does it too. But she didn't like the price tag on it. It was $12.99. So yeah, that's for us in our model. We don't like paying that. But I was like, but it's a lily. Everybody has trouble putting down a lily, at least in my opinion. But it was a popover skipper hoodie, and it had like a little kangaroo pouch. It had the obvious Lily Pulitzer patterns on it, the vibrant colors. It was in pristine condition. Nothing wrong with it at all. So it actually sold after 4 days. My sister, like I said, she found it originally, but she didn't like the price. So I was like, give it to me, I'll buy it then. And I priced it up compared to comps, and I made $63 after sitting on it for only 4 days. So I'm surprised it sold that fast. And the shipping, I gave a discounted shipping for $2.02. And the fees were those hurtful fees on Poshmark, $12.60. My profit was $35.39. So that's how that one worked out. Next we have I'm never sure if it's bonobos or bonobos, whatever, but it was a bonobos wool blend suit jacket. The suit jackets had great comps. I know that everybody is kind of debating whether this is a good brand or not. So yeah, the suit jackets, especially for wool blend, have decent comps. So in 8 days, it sold on Poshmark, eBay for $50. I paid $7.99 for it originally. Shipping was $8.02. The fees were $8.89, so I made a profit of $40.80. And lastly, I'm going to talk about an item from a brand that really doesn't sell that great. I rarely pick it up, and that is Bar 3. At least that's how I call it. I've never actually researched the brand. It was a collab with Bella Tilly, and it was this very Xenon girl of the 21st century skirt. It very much made me think of the concert, the Zoom, 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 Make My Heart Go Boom, Boom. I think I even put down for one of the keywords, not in the title, but somewhere else, I put Xenon, girl of the 21st century. Anyways, I had listed this originally hoping it would sell for New Year. I thought it was a great New Year's piece. It did not. So I was like, great, it's gonna sit forever. But it sold in 75 days after New Year. It sold on January 27th to be specific. So it did take 75 days to sell, and I only sold it for $18. So not the greatest. I really had higher hopes for this. I thought it was a special piece. It was. It still sold in a decent amount of time. But I sold it for $18. I paid $1.67 for it. So at least there wasn't a huge investment into it. The shipping cost was $6.09 and the fees were $3.18. So my profit was $12.41 to end the month of my 90-day turnarounds that I'm sharing. So that was the month of January. I honestly had a lot more. Let me see here. Surprisingly, my highest tiers of turnaround were the 30-day turnarounds were the exact same as my ones that took over a year to sell. But I feel like between a year to sell and over the 100% sell-through rate, there was a ton of them. So, which means anything that took over 90 days. So anywhere from 91 days to years into the future, made up the most of January's sales. So at least I moved a lot of old stuff. And it looks like here in February, we're off to a better start with a lot more 100% sell-through rate items coming through. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys, and I'm gonna film another video, I don't know when. But that was the month of January. I will see you guys in a future video. Bye.